anyone who's been snorkeling will know just how beautiful the reef scene is. But I think more than that, it was an understanding that the marine world is under threat and wanting to be a part of trying to make a difference to that. The PhD studies are really to tease out more of what I've begun to discover with this first study, which is that it seems certain shapes on the reef, certain shapes of corals, are particularly attractive to the larger reef fish.
Why is that important, and particularly when you're talking about the Great Barrier Reef?
If there are certain shapes that are particularly sought after by large reef fish, and in my study I found that it was tabular or table corals, then if we're going to perhaps lose those corals, and there is evidence that would suggest that they might be lost first under climate change, it does raise the question as to whether we might lose the larger reef fish as a result of that. Now, that's not something that my study has proven, but I want to take that research further and look at just how important these tabular corals and more generally this sort of overhanging shape on the reef is for large reef fish and their day-to-day activities.
The technology that you're using, how new is it, and how has it enabled you to uncover things that might not have been previously observed?
It's relatively new in the sense that we're able to use quite sophisticated high-resolution underwater video cameras, and JCU obviously has the facilities for that. We've constructed specific tripods to allow us to use these cameras. But obviously it also just required a good deal of time back in the lab, days and days and days, just pouring through video footage and analysing which fish were using which coral and in what way.
How much damage do tabular corals actually receive when you're talking about cyclones, which we've seen quite a bit of in the last couple of years?
They're actually one of the most susceptible shapes to cyclones. I mean, just you think about their shape, you've got your tabletop with a sort of single stem. They're highly susceptible to being overturned by strong wave energy.
What impact have you recorded in the last 2 years of those types of incidents on the reef?
I haven't got specific data with regard to tabular corals, and that's one thing that I want to look at in the next few years. Certainly what we do know is that after something like a cyclone Yasi has gone through, if you go to the reef, you'll find the reefs that are particularly in the path of the cyclone, you'll find that they're largely rubble, and the structure, particularly with regard to the diversity of shapes, has been greatly reduced.
So how would the loss of those corals then affect the fish that you're talking about, coral trout and sweetlip?
Well, from the video observations that I took and I later analysed, we got a sense that the fish that are using these corals are doing it for a variety of reasons. So some might be doing it to hide from predators, such as sharks that are roaming around. Others, or indeed all fish, may be using it to hide to some degree from the sun, because there's sort of anecdotal evidence, at least, that fish suffer skin damage from UV. And then other fish, such as coral trouts, which are well-known ambush predators, they lie in wait, and we believe they're using these table corals to do that, to lie in wait where they can't be seen, to catch unsuspecting prey. So it is possible that if you lose these shapes, you might seriously affect the ability of the fish that use them to conduct their day-to-day activities.
How would you go about determining the fact that these fish use these types of corals if they weren't present in the environment?
One possible way is to construct what we call artificial reef. And I actually did a small study up at Lizard Island building, I suppose you call them fake table corals, out of plastic. So what I did was built this kind of mock table-shaped plastic coral and had half of them left clear so the sunlight could come through. The other half I painted black across the top. And it was quite overwhelming just how much the fish very strongly went for the black corals but ignored the clear fake table corals.
Given that most species of animals are adaptable, how much can we rely on the fact that these animals are going to have to adapt if they want to survive?
It's a good question. I think that's something that I'll need to get back to you on, because that's really what I want to take forward with the next few years of my research and look at just how important the loss of this shape is to the fish and how able they are to adapt.
And where else could that information then be applied? Just because you understand something and you've observed something, how can you take that information and apply it to saving the coral or the fish?
I think that's more of a management question, and I suppose that this kind of research is part of a wider body of very active research on the Great Barrier Reef and other reefs at the moment that's helping to inform the decisions of reef managers across the world.